I'm gonna try to, yeah. Now it says I'm recording.
Okay, I'm gonna assume it's recording. It still says preparing on my end, but I don't want to keep people waiting, so we're gonna assume that it's recording. If not, it's fine. The people who showed up, showed up.
Okay.
All right, you guys can go ahead and take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for having us, Southwestern University. So yeah, we're going to kick off this conversation. For those of you who are not familiar with what today is 420 in the cannabis world. It is a special holiday. It's very cheesy, campy, just to help celebrate the cannabis plant, usually marijuana, but we're going to talk about that as we segue into hemp. But really, hemp has made a big splash in the world, in the United States especially, over the past couple years. And so there's a lot that people don't know about the plant, which we'll dive into today, and really the topic of sustainability. So there's a lot of applications, which we'll get into, but obviously I want to make sure that you guys have any questions answered. So as we go through the slides, I think there's a chat box. I've also included some of our social handles. At the end, I'll include our email. If you have any questions for Sydney or I, we're happy to answer them both today and after. So with that, we'll dive into sustainable hemp and CBD. So who are we and why are we giving you this presentation? So my name is Shayda Torabi.
I'm Sydney Torabi.
We are sisters. We go by the CBD sisters. If you feel like hashtagging us, that's a very popular hashtag that we use. So we own Restart CBD. It is a CBD brand based here in Austin, Texas. I know Southwestern University is in Georgetown, Texas. So just one of our little sister cities and communities. But for anybody watching from all over the country, we do have an online brand as well at restartcbd.com. So we own a CBD brand. We've been in the industry professionally a little over 2 years now and have been cannabis fans for many years from there. So my background is actually professional marketing. I did corporate tech marketing for many years, and then that segued into being one of the co-founders of Restart CBD. In addition to that, I'm a really big cannabis activist. I go to the Capitol when they have lobby days. I'm a part of some organizations, Texas Normal, as well as Hemp Industries Association, and I public speak a lot. So I was most recently in Las Vegas speaking at a massive national hemp expo. It's a very big passion of ours, not only to run our brand, but to also help educate consumers on the many benefits of this plant. And so that's kind of what I bring to the table when it comes to our business as well as our expertise. And then my sister
over here. So Shayda's much better at public speaking, so I'm just going to let her take over for a lot of this. But my background is I studied nutrition in college and got my BA in that, and then took that to become a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, and quickly always believed that plants were medicine and that fuel comes from your food, and just started this CBD business with my sister on the act of more holistic medicine and training and things like that, and brought it to clients that I had who had questions. I personally started using CBD because I was a former collegiate athlete at Texas, and I was trying to avoid certain medications for inflammation reasons and to help me recover after a workout. So I very much approach CBD as a wellness-based side and still talk about it to this day and take it all the time.
So yeah, we'll get into a little bit more about our personal uses on a later slide, but hopefully you can gather, not only are we wearing contrasting colors, black and white, but we really do represent the yin and the yang of cannabis. And so with that, we'll kind of dive into a little bit more about our brand. So we do operate a brick and mortar here in Austin, as well as that e-commerce shop. We were one of the very first local brands here in Austin to operate, and to this day, we are the most popular and the most successful. I think it really stems from we care about the quality of the product that we're creating. We really do truly care about this plant. It does have a lot of benefits to it. It's not just this recreational, stigmatized marijuana stoned feeling. There's a lot of medicinal, holistic health benefits to using CBD, as well as the many applications of educating consumers on the benefit of hemp in general. So again, talking about sustainability and the many agricultural benefits. So we just really believe in this plant and have a brand that we like to leverage to be able to do opportunities like this, where we can help, again, educate. So when you interact with us, both in our store, on our website, through our content, you'll see a lot of our faces. We're very active in the community. We just like to help people connect to the plant and ultimately have a better relationship with plant-based medicine, because there's a lot of really great benefits. And when you start getting into the realities of it, people are experiencing pain, whether it's anxiety, sleep, chronic pain, and are looking for solutions that they can control themselves. And so to have a plant like hemp that has so many restorative properties, not only for our bodies, but also for our planet, it's just really cool to be able to have that conversation, because everybody assumes that it's all marijuana or it's all going to make you stoned. And that's not really the case, as you'll find out in today's presentation. Also, what I've included are some links to, it's pretty much the same link on every page, but if you're curious and you want more CBD facts, we're not going to get into CBD so much as just more general hemp, but on our website, restartcbd.com/CBD-facts, we have a whole slew of information. Like I said, we're really big on education, and so you can get more CBD resources there. And that's another thing I'll caveat this presentation with. We are very passionate, but we are not medical professionals. We are not formal educators. We're not researchers. So a lot of the things that we share is from our own personal research, as well as anecdotal evidence from personally using these products and being in this industry. Like I mentioned, I speak at national conferences. So I've been to CBD and hemp events in Washington, California, Nevada, Florida, Colorado, pretty much anywhere that there's a big market, I've been a part of it. And so I share that to say, I do a good job of aggregating information, but please don't take what we say as the explicit truth, but use it as a jumping off point to go do further education and research for yourself for how you might be inspired to both leverage cannabis, leverage hemp, or just use it, personally for yourself. So we thought we would kick some things off with, some hemp history. So industrial hemp is in the same family as marijuana. So to kind of back up and orient for you guys, cannabis is like the parent plant. I have cannabis written on my shirt for today. Cannabis is the parent plant, and then there's marijuana and there's hemp. So marijuana is what people are often confusing with hemp. They think hemp is marijuana. I think they're the same. They're same, but different. Really, the big differentiator is the amount of THC, and THC is a cannabinoid. THC as a cannabinoid is what does cause someone to have a psychoactive or psychotropic effect. And so in marijuana, the THC is higher to the CBD ratio. So it's a THC to CBD, versus in hemp, it's flipped essentially. It's going to be higher in CBD, lower in THC. And so that's really the big differentiator. I'll get to a slide where we talk about the legalities, but marijuana is not legal in every state. So for example, in Texas, marijuana is not legal, but hemp is federally legal in all 50 states. So everything that we're talking about is really about hemp, this high CBD, low THC plant. And so just kind of keep that in mind as we go through. What is hemp used for? For centuries, it's been used by a bunch of different civilizations, especially when you go into the history books, you see that hemp was actually, again, I don't know how true this is, but I like to think it's true. When they were, Christopher Columbus, I was like, who's the guy on the ships with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria? When Christopher Columbus was immigrating to America, it's actually, documented that the sails were made of hemp, that a lot of the ropes were made of hemp, that everybody, when they were colonizing America, was required to grow hemp because of all the great things that we'll dive in today to learn about. And so, hemp has this long history in our country. It has a long history in our world. And so there are many applications. Of course, most probably popular is turning it into CBD oil or cannabidiol oil. And so history about when did it become illegal? So it was actually banned in 1937 because of its association to marijuana. So the Marijuana Tax Act got passed. And if you've ever seen Reefer Madness, I thought that was kind of like a comical thing, oh, reefer madness, and people think that, marijuana is going to get you all high. But no, that fear was so real that when that movie came out, that period of time, that's really when you started seeing this stigmatization around cannabis in general, and therefore hemp got lumped with cannabis and marijuana and basically got removed from our society. So we're doing a lot of backtracking to get back to where we were, but it was outlawed and replaced by plastic, cotton, fossil fuels, and a lot of other profitable products. When you're talking about sustainability, it's really crazy to kind of dig up and realize, like, why is this plant kind of put in this really gray area or put in this stigmatized position? And you look at the competing industries, you look at the timber industry, the cotton industry, the plastic industry. Hemp essentially could replace a lot of those industries at a much cheaper cost and a much quicker time frame. And those industries are obviously very big conglomerates. And so it's just who's the political moving happening kind of to decide what survived. And so that's kind of where we are. And like I said, doing a lot of work to bring us back to a great place to start when it comes to hemp in America. So this is another little graphic just to kind of walk you through hemp versus marijuana. It does look slightly different when you look at the actual makeup of the plant. Think of hemp as being a little bit more of a weedier plant. It's known to grow. So one of the points is it can grow in most climates. So really it can grow anywhere. Versus marijuana, you want to monitor a little bit more closely. And so it's a lot more art to the growth of that type of plant. But again, the real big difference is the percentage of THC. So in marijuana, it's going to contain anywhere from 5 to 35%. Industrial hemp, based on the 2018 Farm Bill, what made it legal was that it had to contain less than 0.3% THC. So all hemp products that you are purchasing in the United States of America, shipping across state lines, is industrial hemp, and it will contain no more than 0.3% THC. There we go. I just wanted to double check a slide. So this, I thought was a really good visualization as we dive into the sustainability of hemp. So the plant has many different uses. So just kind of starting at the bottom with the roots can be used for medicine, organic compost, the leaves and flowers for animal bedding, mulch, medicine, recreation. But it's really when you get into the stalk and the seeds that there's a lot more applications. So I don't know if you've ever had a smoothie bowl and they top it with hemp seeds. That is hemp from hemp plants. So it's not a separate product that somebody had made. I think those are some of the products that maybe were first to market that people saw more comfortably at Whole Foods and things like that. If you're shopping at natural grocers, hemp granola, hemp protein powder. I know when I go to different smoothie shops, I see hemp protein powder as an option. So there's these protein food applications when it comes to hemp. But then when you look at the stock side, I think there's a much wider application when you're looking at textiles, insulation, rope, paper, compost, animal bedding, fiber boards. I know there's a really big conference in Colorado. It got canceled this year. It's called NOCO, Northern Colorado Hemp Expo, and they do a really good job of having a whole section dedicated to the sustainability of hemp. And they actually bring a lot of the makers and the brands who are focus on that side of the industry, who are talking about replacing our oil for our vehicles with potentially hemp oil, or who are talking about even replacing building homes by replacing the insulation with hemp insulation. So I think that those are maybe not as widely seen today in the marketplace. I think we see those because we're in the industry and we go to some of these shows. Like I said, you're probably more likely to see hemp seeds at Whole Foods or CBD oil being sold at a store like ours. But when it comes to paper, textiles, clothing, I think those are newer markets that are just beginning to open up. So I think it's really exciting that we're talking about the sustainability of hemp because it really has many applications. And to point out, in the top right-hand corner, it says the hemp plant has up to 50,000 uses. Now, I've heard that number range anywhere from 2,000 to 50,000. It doesn't matter. There's more than 100. More than 100 uses is a pretty big deal in my opinion, in our opinion. And so just kind of keep that in mind that we really are just scratching the surface when it comes to cannabis and when it comes to hemp. So hopefully this is getting your creative juices flowing and thinking of ways that you could maybe be a part of this industry or help add value to this industry as we continue to move forward. So I also thought it was really important to set the tone for how the law sits. So according to the 2018 Farm Bill in October of 2018, it basically legalized industrial hemp for growing, selling, and production. So prior to 2018, hemp was illegal to grow in America. So you saw a lot more of hemp being produced in China, in Europe, in Canada. Those are some of the bigger, still even to this day, hemp production facilities, countries. Thank you. And so America's kind of late to the game. So remember, we had access to hemp and then it was illegal for a very long time. And so not only could you not consume it, but you obviously couldn't grow it. And so all these sustainability applications when it comes to farmers being able to take advantage of growing this really amazing crop, us being able to leverage it from a planting perspective and regenerating our soil. We didn't have access to it because it wasn't technically legal. So thanks to the 2018 Farm Bill, it federally passed, again, legalizing industrial hemp with less than 0.3% THC across all 50 states. However, Texas operates on a 2-year legislative cycle. So basically, when the Farm Bill passed, Texas hadn't had their legislative session yet. So we had to wait until our session opened and closed. And thankfully, they did vote to legalize hemp in the state of Texas officially. So what that meant was federally, when it passed, states like Colorado, California, Oregon, they had decided in their states that, especially because marijuana was already legal in those states, you could basically go ahead and already start growing hemp. So those states got a jump start on growing hemp compared to a state like Texas. So because we're a Texas brand, we're very much involved in what's happening from an agricultural perspective in our state. And so we go to a lot of these Texas conferences and these meetup groups, and there's a lot of farmers who are just waiting to get in on this opportunity to grow because it does have a lot better cycles, growing, the amount of water that the plant uses
Less
to produce
area.
crops, less area. So there's a lot of benefits that farmers want to take advantage of growing. But because Texas waited so long, our farmers couldn't take advantage of being able to leverage this crop. So just now, I think it was mid-March, they had opened up applications for hemp farmers to actually apply. So you can't just because it's legal, it doesn't mean you can actually go grow it willy-nilly. You have to get a license. You have to go through the protocol. So if that's something that you're interested in, know that those licenses are open. I don't know how they're distributing those, but that's a really great thing because that means that the state of Texas can get involved and take advantage of this great opportunity to help provide the sustainable plant to not only Texans, but to the nation. So I know we're talking about the sustainability, but I wanted to talk about why people use CBD oil in particular, because I think CBD, again, is one of the major applications for why people are familiar with hemp or why they're personally trying hemp. I also want to caveat this slide again, and I have a typo on the bottom over there, but we're not medical professionals. Nothing that we're saying is proven, tested, guaranteed. A lot of the things that we share and that we will share are because of our experience as consumers, first and foremost, as well as what we hear anecdotally from our customers. So we've bucketed CBD's application into 3 areas. Primarily, we see people taking CBD for pain, for sleep, and for anxiety. The most researched thing, though, why people take CBD, which you might be more familiar with, is because of epilepsy. So there are a lot more research reports done on children in particular with epilepsy. I think that's where I really personally started seeing a lot of the market open up to this a couple years ago. It was like, you got to help the children. The children have these seizures. And of course, you're looking for some plant-based way to help accommodate those reactions that they're having. I mean, I watched a documentary of children as young as like 1 or 2 years old who are just having these horrible seizures, and they're being prescribed really intense medications. And so the fact that CBD has come to market as being a plant-based solution to not only mitigate, but also, resolve some of those side effects is really, really powerful. So I say that to say there's a lot of applications that are not researched. I mean, we have people who really truly take it for a lot of things under the sun. I've heard neuropathy, I've heard migraines, psoriasis is a big one. Kind of think of all the cannabinoids. CBD is a cannabinoid. The cannabinoids have properties to them. And so CBD's main property is anti-inflammation. So with that lens on, you can kind of apply it to anything that there might be inflammation, which is why you might take it. I did want to use this slide to give a little bit of an insight into why I take CBD and why Sydney takes CBD. I personally take CBD, and it's kind of the impetus for like why our brand Restart started was because I was in a car accident, gosh, 5 or 6 years ago now. I was hit by a vehicle as a pedestrian in downtown Austin, and I fractured my pelvis in 2 places. That's a mouthful. It's a lot. I'm obviously okay today. And the kind of, crux of that story is I'm a huge cannabis consumer. I love cannabis in all of its forms. I had no idea what CBD was 6 years ago. And just going off of what I shared, it technically wasn't even federally legal up until just, 2.5, 3 years ago. So I got exposed to CBD, but there wasn't really a market for it. And so luckily our mom is the one who actually introduced it to us. We grew up here in Austin, Texas. We grew up with, homeopathic remedies, going to people's pharmacy, taking turmeric and ashwagandha for different things. And so to us, CBD was just a natural plant remedy to try to treat some of my chronic pain. My mom had heard that it could help bone growth and it could help manage my pain. And so I decided that I would start taking CBD. Now, at the time, our mom was getting it from Europe because, again, you couldn't really get it from America at that time. So that was really how our family got introduced to the CBD side, to the hemp side of the cannabis conversation. And so I just started blindly taking it. I couldn't tell you how much I was taking. I couldn't tell you, how often I was taking it. And I think that still is unfortunately true to CBD application today. Legally, nobody could tell you take this much CBD and your pain is going to go away or you're going to have better sleep. So it really is a personal journey to discover what works best for your body. But that's kind of how I personally got into it. I just was in a lot of chronic pain. I was recovering from my accident and was just looking for anything to kind of help provide relief. After doing traditional steroid injections, pain medications, and physical therapy, I was looking for something that I could control. And so CBD really truly helped me manage that pain. And it still today is something that I use just depending on how my pain is going. If I wear the wrong shoes, if I sit on the wrong surface, my pelvis might flare up. And I know how to use CBD now to get me that feeling that I'm looking for because I've played around with my doses and my range versus my sister.
So relating it to the natural remedy, homeopathic side of things, I got into CBD because unfortunately Shayda was in her car wreck and she got introduced to CBD, the cannabis, hemp side of cannabis. And that really opened my eyes to cannabis in general because I very much was not a cannabis consumer growing up. It wasn't something that I was drawn to. And I was the stigma person to think very poorly upon all things cannabis. And it wasn't until she started to take it, I started to see great results essentially from her taking it, that I started to do my own research on it. I was again learning about food as medicine, food as fuel, and all about the health benefit sides of plants. And I was a collegiate athlete in college. I'm also a personal trainer now, a nutrition coach, and really just started taking CBD as just being introduced through Shayda and as an inflammatory, helped me with my inflammation because I was working out 20 plus hours a week in college and my body was under a lot of stress. I really, again, tried not to take Advil, ibuprofen, certain medications that I honestly had a lot of athlete friends taking, and I just didn't want to get into that realm. And I started small. I started on a very low dose of CBD, something without THC, and we can go into a whole mess of things from there. But the more I took it, the more research I had done about it, the more I was talking to friends, relatives, people about it, the more I really opened my eyes to cannabis. And now obviously I own a cannabis business with my sister, and I'm all for the plant and all for its uses. So still to this day, I do take CBD pretty much every single day in different forms. I started out by just taking an oil because that was what I was most comfortable with. There are days that I add in topicals. There are days that I now smoke CBD. And so it's really just the options are endless. And I always tell people to, open your eyes, be a little bit open to the idea, and just do some research, because even though there isn't a lot of research on cannabis, there are so many great benefits to it and so many different applications, again, that you can use it for.
So the summation of that is it's a personal journey. And so figuring out how CBD can work for your body, what's the right product, is part of you experiencing and going on that journey and playing around with different things. So to kind of touch on different types of CBD products, I thought it would be helpful to just kind of position things. We use the word bioavailable. Bioavailability just means how much something is going to be absorbed in your body when you consume it. So not the most medicinal, but the most bioavailable product is going to be smoking CBD. It's going to look and smell just like marijuana. That picture that we have displayed is actually a picture of industrial hemp and not marijuana. So again, it's going to contain the less than 0.3% trace amounts of THC. But people like to smoke it just like they do other cannabis products. There's also vaping options. There's wax, there's shadows, there's a whole bunch of different types of smokables. But know that when you smoke CBD, you're getting it much more quicker because you're inhaling it, it's going into your lungs. And so people who are looking for more immediate relief, maybe you're looking for quick anxiety, quick sleep, quick pain relief, smokables is a really great way to get that CBD in your system. However, to counter it, sometimes I don't always know how much CBD I'm getting, especially when I'm smoking the flower. You can do the math on the weight of how much milligrams you're smoking and how much percentage is what, but it kind of is confusing. And so I still look at smoking products as a little bit more recreationally. I do enjoy recreationally smoking. And so for me, again, I don't really use the smokables as my everyday product. I'm looking at something like an oil. So an oil is going to be much more common. You're going to see these probably more on the shelves. These are the products that are sublinguals. You're going to place the oil under your tongue, let it sit there for 60 seconds. I do use an oil every day. I think Sydney mentioned that she uses an oil every day. So oils are kind of our go-to regular products. Now they do come in different bottle sizes, different strengths. And so the effects, the strength will vary. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're perusing CBD oils, or if you're even using CBD oil, just be mindful of maybe how many milligrams you're using, because I think that can indicate what your body is responding to versus, like we could both take 20 milligrams and have a different effect, if that makes sense. Another really popular option is topicals. Topicals, think of if you have, a specific place on your body that's inflamed. So we get a lot of people who tell us they have arthritis, arthritis in their hands. Maybe it's total body arthritis. I usually recommend an oil for someone who has maybe more total body pain, because the sublingual is going to work from the inside out versus a topical is really going to be on the spot. So again, if you have, really bad inflammation in a particular area of your body's really sore, your calves after running a marathon, topical CBD on the impacted area is really beneficial, and you will notice it probably more quickly. But for example, a topical might not provide the same relief if you're looking for sleep aid or for anxiety aid, because it's not penetrating deep enough into your endocannabinoid system, which is why CBD works, is because you have an endocannabinoid system and CBD is a cannabinoid. The last kind of product I'll highlight is edibles. Edibles are probably on the lower end of bioavailability just because you have to digest it. It's going to take time to break down in your system. The benefit of why someone might like a product like that is because they can, it takes longer to take effect, but it has almost like a more ongoing effect. So depending on what you're taking it for, you're looking for maybe more all day kind of chilled outness. Maybe an edible is something that you could check out. So those aren't the explicit total ways to use CBD, but those are for the top categories of, different types of CBD oil and CBD products on the market today. So now getting into the sustainability side of it, I was doing some research to pull this presentation together, and I wanted to kind of highlight, just to kind of frame us around what does sustainability mean. I'm sure if you're part of the sustainability group at Southwestern, you're probably more versed in this than most people. But I think that when it comes down to it, there's 3 different types of applications. There's a social implication, there's an economic effect, and there's an environmental impact. So thinking of a social implication, you can look at different applications, thinking of maybe how people are being paid in this industry, what is the social injustice, human rights. I think that there's a whole racism conversation around cannabis that is, kind of on the table for discussion. There's also an economic effect. The benefits of sustainability don't always translate to rapid economic growth. So that discourages a lot of companies and lawmakers from focusing on the goals. So there is a huge economic opportunity when it comes to cannabis and hemp in particular. But I think, kind of like I touched on earlier, there's other more economically inclined industries, cotton, timber, plastics and things like that might have a more vested interest. And so we're always kind of battling that when it comes to the economic effect. And then of course the environmental effect. There's renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and other approaches that produce less waste. I think that's a really big appeal when it comes to hemp, because we'll get into some of those slides and some of those facts around just how cool hemp is. It uses less water. It has a much quicker growth cycle, so you can grow more plants less space more quickly to ultimately produce more product to make more money, which is better for everybody who's involved in that supply chain. And so there's a huge environmental impact when it comes to looking at this from a lens for hemp and cannabis in particular too. So these are just some high levels of why we believe hemp is sustainable. So hemp returns higher amounts of nutrients to the ground. Hemp is a super nutrient rich plant. And so when it's planted, it's actually depositing those nutrients back into the ground. There is a story that I always like to kind of highlight. If you're familiar with Chernobyl and the explosion that happened, that land, that where the explosion happened, the effects of how that the radiation, like everything penetrated into the ground. They actually are currently planting hemp on the property because hemp is so high in nutrients and it actually helps suck the toxins out of the earth. So when you're looking at it from restoring our planet, like literally from the ground, just planting hemp can help regrow and repopulate that soil with better nutrients so that you can continuously use the land to produce more plants, essentially. It uses less water than traditional crops. I think one of the slides, it says it uses 50% less water compared to cotton. And hemp can be used for clothing, and, same fibers like you'd be using to make clothing with cotton. So I think that's pretty cool. It produces a higher yield from the same space. So if you're talking about cotton versus hemp, you could plant the same amount of crops and you're going to produce more hemp than you will cotton in the same plot of land. It's naturally resistant to pests, diseases, and fungus. So one of the things I saw was, with hemp, you don't have to use as much pesticides because the plant is so resistant to those pests and diseases. So there's a whole aspect of the farming industry that doesn't really apply to hemp because it's just such a sturdy, durable plant and it's resilient. And so I think that's really cool. That was the word I was looking for, resilient. Hemp is a resilient plant. So it's like you plant it, it uses less water, it can grow anywhere, you can produce more yield from the same amount of space. It's much cheaper to produce than some of these other plants that are growing. It's just like, how are we not taking advantage of this plant? It can help address deforestation and instead of for making construction materials, clothing, fuel, and more. So yeah, there's many applications to hemp. One of the things I saw was somebody had built a house, like the whole house, everything in the house was made out of hemp. And it was at a conference I went to, so they were kind of showing it on a small scale. And I think right now the idea of building, let's say, a whole neighborhood with hemp houses, hemp insulation, hemp floors, hemp everything is on the costly side just because it's not as widely adopted yet. So it's really cool that we're able to have these conversations to hopefully help inspire people to, for example, for us, we're trying to make a change right now to support these sides of the industry. So looking for clothing that is hemp and looking for paper products that are actually made out of hemp so that we can support the industry and help make it a little bit more accessible and common for people to pursue hemp as the product versus these other types of materials. These are some really cool hemp facts. So hemp grows in a variety of climates. It's fast growing and can grow in relatively small spaces. It grows like a weed and is a resilient crop that can actually help clean up soil pollution. So just like I mentioned with Chernobyl. So just again, think of that. When farmers are planting, let's say, other crops, you have to cycle your crops out. You can't grow crops on top of your previous crops land. That land needs to regenerate. It needs to have nutrients be put back in the soil. But because hemp is so restorative, you can really keep using the same soil. And not only can you keep using the same soil, but it's like putting the nutrients back into that plant or in the planet, it's putting it back into the earth. So it's a plant that not only gives us so much from a human perspective by consuming it, but it also really truly helps our planet, which I think is the coolest thing full circle. I mean, from our perspective, I'm probably geeking out a little too much right now with you guys, but how have we not taken advantage of this or known about this sooner? It kills my heart to know that we've lived this long thinking hemp is this devil weed plant. And say what you will about, the marijuana side of things. I definitely don't want to advocate for that because it's not legal in our state necessarily, but I do want to advocate for us having conversations and educating ourselves on the benefit of cannabis and the benefit of hemp, specifically when talking about the sustainability of our planet and our own bodies. So hemp absorbs CO2 while it grows through natural photosynthesis, making it carbon negative from the get-go. Hemp needs approximately half as much land and half as much water as cotton. And hemp is regarded as a superfood since they are high in omega-3 fatty acids and complete protein. So again, you're looking at all these different applications. I personally make smoothies, every other morning, and I could use pea protein, I could use whey protein, or I could use hemp protein. I can go shopping for clothing that is made from cotton, or I could go shopping for clothing that's made from hemp. I could look for insulation for a house I might be building with traditional insulation materials, or I could look for insulation materials made out of hemp. Like, there's just so many applications that once you just start kind of like being aware of, you can swap products out. And so maybe that's something that you can consider doing right now, is just looking for alternatives that you can start taking advantage of to help introducing hemp into your lifestyle on a much more frequent basis. So these are just a few additional facts, but I like the little visualization. I took this from a website. Hemp plastic is non-toxic and biodegradable. It's also much stronger than conventional plastic. So let's start using hemp as a synthetic plastic. It can replace cotton. Cotton uses 50% more water than hemp to grow. It also uses up to 25% of the world's pesticides. So again, when you're talking about hemp being a plant that doesn't need as much pesticides or any pesticides compared to cotton, and cotton uses 50% more water and 50% more space to grow, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Why are we not planting hemp everywhere? And so again, as a state like Texas, I think what we see a lot of are people who are really excited to plant hemp because there's this huge CBD boom, which is great. We obviously love CBD. We think that there needs to be great sources here in our state to supply that for the supply chain. But what I'm really excited to see are some of these other applications for the plant. So I'm looking forward to seeing farmers grow hemp to be used for fiber, for plastics, for paper, for oil. And that only can happen if we start talking about it more. So a selfish request from our end is, if there's anything that you learned today from this webinar, tell somebody about it. Tell somebody a fact that you learned. Like, tell your parents, tell your significant other. The more that we can talk about this, the more that we can normalize it, the more that we can raise it up in our conversation, makes it not so much of a crazy idea. It's like, why wouldn't you grow hemp instead of cotton? Like, that to me is a no-brainer. Tree paper, an acre of hemp yields as much paper as 4 acres of tree in one growing season. And hemp-based biofuel is 86% greener than gasoline and can be used in existing transportation vehicles. Like, I just want to...
Existing vehicles, like the ones you drive.
The ones
today.
you drive. So again, these are just some, very real, tangible applications that hemp can have from a sustainability perspective on our planet. And so just hopefully you guys are taking it to heart, just the great impact that this plant can really have. So I thought this is kind of like a wordy slide, but I'm going to read it just because I think that it's really important. Again, kind of reflecting on everything that we've shared with our stories in particular. When I first got introduced to CBD, it wasn't federally legal. So you couldn't find CBD products on a website. You couldn't go to a local shop and buy CBD oil. It wasn't accessible. And on top of that, I mean, even just now, look at the amount of products that are not made of hemp. I mean, there are websites that you could buy hemp business cards, or like I said, hemp t-shirts, but they're much farther and fewer between. I do think that industries are growing, especially as we have these conversations, but just to kind of give you some frame for how the rest of the world is operating when it comes to hemp. Globally, hemp is already an established crop that's dominated by 3 regions. In China, hemp has been cultivated for textiles for over a decade and is now a $200 million industry. Europeans have had a head start in planting and utilizing hemp for construction and other industrial markets. And since 1998, Canada has grown to dominate the hemp food production industry with its hemp seeds. Now, being decades behind other regions, we have a lot of catching up to do. In order to incentivize and support our farmers to successfully grow hemp, it will be tremendously helpful to get our government support. So on one of the slides, I have a resource slide. Like I said, everything helps. Telling a friend, telling a neighbor, telling a teacher, telling a peer, you being somebody who's in a position to maybe look at what you're doing, how you can support sustainability, maybe within your own lives, what products that you can swap out. Maybe you care about getting involved on a local government level, on a national government level. Like I said, I personally am involved in a few local organizations here in Austin that get together. They send out emails. Sometimes it's as simple as me forwarding an email to a government official or to a legislative member and just contributing my voice to the conversations. For us, a lot of our day-to-day business here at Restart CBD is educating consumers on the benefits of cannabis and hemp and CBD. Sometimes it's us participating in webinars like this, just helping be a friendly face and a voice of this conversation. But like, it's not just me or Sydney who are having this conversation. It's all of us. We all need to care about our bodies, our family and friends' bodies, our community, our city, our planet. And so, I say that to say your voice matters. Your opinion matters. You obviously are sitting on this webinar for some reason because there's some interest that you're curious about the sustainability of hemp and cannabis and CBD. And so I hope that I'm tugging on your heartstrings to have a conversation with yourself and with your loved ones on, what we can do to kind of help further push this conversation forward, because I think it's a really important conversation. It's a really powerful conversation, and knowing all the benefits that hemp and cannabis can provide, again, both not just for our personal human benefit, but like literally for our planet, has a lot of really great applications as well. So these are some of the resources that I put together. First one is something that we operate and run. If you're on Facebook and you like to be on Facebook and you want to get updates from us, we made a secret Facebook group. It's called Restart CBD Secret Group. It's not really a secret, but it's a private group that we use to share resources that we come across. So let's say that we were not the speakers of this webinar, but we heard this webinar was happening. We would post things like that in this group so that our friends, our community can have access to information. Again, we never want to be the gatekeepers, but we definitely want to help be a conduit to further helping you get educated when it comes to cannabis and CBD and hemp. And so that group, we share a lot of information. We encourage you guys to have conversations as you come across resources and articles. That's really great and helpful. Another one is if you just go to YouTube and you look up Misunderstood by Patagonia, the clothing company, they actually produced a very great 15-minute video on the sustainability of hemp. And they just did a really nice visualization. They interviewed a lot of really key players in the space, and like a lot of farmers, a lot of people who are growing the hemp itself. And I think it's just a really good another frame for you to view the sustainability of hemp from. There are two organizations that we as a business and myself as an individual are very involved in. Texas Normal is a little bit more marijuana focused, but they actually are the ones who lead a lot of the lobby days and the legislative awareness conversations. So anytime that they host a meeting, they are usually here in Austin. We're the capital city, and so that's usually where Texas Normal meets. And it's just a really good group of people. I obviously represent a business. I have, farmer friends who are participating. I have lawyer friends. I have research friends who are participating. You just meet a lot of people who are really passionate about this plant. And because they're doing things from a nonprofit at a state level, it's just really exciting to see how you can help be a part of that conversation. HIA, I should have spelled it out as Hemp Industries Association. Think of it as the hemp side of the conversation. Not quite as active. I don't go to meetings per se with HIA, but they do have a great website and a lot of digital resources that you can take advantage of if you want to get involved, especially maybe if you're like, hey, I want to grow hemp because I want to grow it to replace paper or cotton or anything like that. HIA is a great resource. And then Ministry of Hemp is also another great resource. They just create a lot of really good content and have access to a lot of the key players in the space who are contributing to the conversation. And so these are just some of the things that we personally use as consumers in the space just to help educate ourselves. Thought that it might be helpful for you guys to also benefit from as well. So with that said, I think we have about 15 minutes. I don't know if we have the ability to do a Q&A. I know there is a chat feature, and I would love to do a Q&A if that's something that y'all would be interested in doing. I know there is a chat. I have it open. Does anybody have any questions? And then also for y'all, if you are too shy and you don't want to answer or have us answer anything, I included our Instagram, our website, and our email address, where we do create a lot of content around hemp and CBD and cannabis in general.
And there are ways to send questions to just us, not everybody, if that makes you more comfortable as well.
Hi, Shayda and Sydney. I'm Rocky, a licensed grower of hemp in Louisiana. Your videos are always very informative. Thanks, Rocky.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. So yeah, a quick plug. If you're on YouTube and you're checking out that misunderstood video, Sydney and I do have a YouTube channel pretty much everywhere online. We're at Restart CBD. And you can see a lot of videos that we've put together. They are a little bit more on the CBD side, again, just like CBD oil, smokables, different types of CBD products. But again, we really just love this plan and try to present information and content, I would say stuff to y'all in a way that's helpful and informative, because we just really want you guys to, there's no dumb question. And I'll kind of, share this. I had a friend who I've known for a very long time, and she asked me the other day if I could help show her how to light a joint. We sell CBD joints. Smokable CBD is one of the ways to consume, and she just had no idea how to light it. She didn't know that was, a thing that she could use. And so sometimes we take things for granted. We take information for granted. And so I just share that to say there's no dumb question. There's no, nobody who has the answer to everything. So like I said, we're all just kind of learning and growing through this together. So thanks, Rocky. We appreciate you and hope you're doing well in Louisiana. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
There's a Q&A. There's 3 up there. So there's that.
Oh, this is great. There is a Q&A. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Sydney. Okay, Jamie Lynn, I've heard about CBD for pets. I've heard about CBD for pets. Do you have any information on this? Yes. Okay, so I totally kind of like glazed over the application when it comes to CBD. For humans, I mentioned pets, but yeah, so people give CBD to their pets for very similar reasons that humans would take CBD. So some of the applications that we see people giving CBD to their pets for are old age. So their pets' bones are just, you can tell that they're kind of walking a little bit more slowly. They're having a hard time getting up, getting down, thunder, lightning, loud noises, traveling. And so pets, because their bodies are smaller, their endocannabinoid systems are smaller, pets would take a lower dose. We do have a lot of information about pet CBD products on Restart CBD's website, as well as we do sell pet oil and pet treats. So the oil you would put in their water or their food, whatever they're going to eat all of, or treats that you can kind of administer as needed. But yes, people love to give CBD to their pets. It is very helpful. And we lost our family dog a couple months ago, but we gave him CBD for about the last 6 years of his life when we pretty much came in contact with it. And it definitely helped him age more gracefully, as we like to say. So great question, Jamie Lynn. Caitlin Babs said, how do I join the secret Facebook group? Go to Facebook, and in the search bar, just type in Restart space CBD space secret group, and it should pop up. If it doesn't, let me see if I can find a link.
Yeah, I can find it.
We will make sure that this group gets sent resources if you didn't find it. Allison asks, hi there, do you know the names of clothing companies that use hemp rather than cotton? That's a really great question. So there is one in particular that I really love. It's definitely on the higher end clothing. It's called Young Maven, Jung space Maven. It's a Los Angeles brand. It is a little harder to find. So for example, we use custom ink to print shirts for our company, and we were looking to print hemp shirts for our company, and like custom ink didn't have it. So we started talking to some local t-shirt printers here in Austin, and we've specifically asked them to source hemp t-shirts. So depending on if you're looking for shirts that you can produce on or shirts that you can just buy and wear for sustainable clothing, I really do like Young Maven's clothing. Is really, really nice, high quality stuff.
And then I believe Patagonia, after their documentary, also has hemp-based clothing products. And then Toad & Co., which I'm just made aware of, also has hemp products. And I think Bombas, I think that's a pretty popular one that a few people I've seen around floating on the internet. So Bombas, Patagonia, Toad & Co., and you can type them here too if you want to type those out. Toad.
Perfect. Okay, and then Corey asked, how long does CBD keep in all forms? Very good question. So depending, I'm gonna use oil as the first example, depending on the So it's called CBD oil, but it actually uses a carrier oil, and CBD needs to be suspended in oil to be absorbed in your body. So
Fat soluble.
fat soluble. So depending on what oil somebody is using could make that product have a longer shelf life. We use organic MCT oil. It's one of the more popular oils because it has really good shelf stability. We also, as a brand, do not add in other ingredients, preservatives, fillings, or flavors. That also extends the longevity of our brand. So our products really are about a year plus shelf stable, just depending on from an oil perspective. I can't say the same for every product out there. Again, I would check the ingredients. I know, for example, sometimes hemp oil as the suspension oil can go rancid much more quickly. And so those products might have a shorter shelf life, as well as requirements for keeping things refrigerated and things like that. But our oils are shelf stable. I do not refrigerate my product, and it can last up to a year plus. When it comes to other types of products, smokables, for example, with a flower. So because it's a flower, it's a bud, it can dry out. So there are products that can help extend the life of your flower. We sell some like
Bovita.
We sell Bovita, which
You can restore the
moisture.
It helps keep the moisture in your jar where you keep your hemp. And then we also raw stones, like ceramic stones, that can essentially, again, help keep the moisture. Or if your flower has gone a little bit drier, it's set and clean. And we've also used it in our shop for our personal uses to regain the moisture. So you soak it, you can put it in your jar, you can close it up for 24 hours. And when you open back up, the moisture is back into the plants. So there are ways to keep your bud really, really fresh.
Yeah.
And we also have a video on that if you're looking for bud on our YouTube, the best keeps, the pros and cons of that.
So yeah, so flower, I would say, just because the nature of the product, it has a little bit different application. Topicals really have pretty long-term application as well. Again, it kind of depends the ingredients. So check the ingredients of the products. But speaking from our product perspective, most of our products are pretty shelf stable and are minimum ingredients. So
yeah,
that was a really great question too, Corey. Okay, we have some time. Is there anything else you guys want to know? You have us for 9 more minutes. We're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to cannabis. That was fun though. I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some really good questions. Is there anything else that you would want to add?
No, that was really good. She's really good at talking.
Thanks, Sid. Yeah, as you can tell, we just really are passionate about this plant and like to educate and talk to people and answer questions and just share as much as we can, because it's helped change our lives so much. To kind of dive in maybe a little bit on my side to wrap it up, I didn't know what I didn't know about CBD. And so as someone who is very comfortable with marijuana, I was so like, oh, CBD, it's probably not as effective as marijuana. I didn't even know how the two were different or how they would operate in my body. But as somebody who's now been on CBD for many years, I can tell you that I don't go a day without it. And that's not to say that there's, like I have to have my CBD. It's just, I know when my body is on CBD, it just helps me. One of our taglines is like, CBD helps restore optimal balance. And so I really look at CBD as that optimal balance. Some days I might take CBD once a day. Sometimes I might take CBD multiple times throughout the day. There's no right or wrong way to take CBD. There's no take this much, take it once a day, take it twice a day. You better take your oil. You also have to use a topical. It's like, depending on how I'm feeling. Like, for example, today, I haven't really had my CBD yet. I just haven't. I had a busy day, and so I haven't had it in my system. And so, today it might, go 5 or 6 hours before I've had it, versus maybe tomorrow I'm going to have it first thing when I wake up. But I can tell you, I always have CBD before I go to bed, because for me, it's all about pain management and better sleep. And so because I take a larger dose of CBD to manage my pain, that dose does cause some drowsiness. And so I like to take it in the evenings. And so I just, really appreciate the opportunity to help tell our story and to help educate you guys. Thank you so much, Southwestern University. And I don't see any more questions or anything. So thanks for having us, and let us know if we can answer anything on Instagram or via email.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'll be making sure that this webinar is available on our Facebook page. So people who weren't able to attend, I know this is like a weird dinner hour, they can go back and watch it and share it with their family and friends as well.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
we
We
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
All right. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Bye.
Bye.